Eileen, good morning.
Good morning, Cicely. So good to be back with you.
Always good to see you as well. Hey, listen, these conversations have been awesome. I love the comments we're getting. Love that people see the value of the insight. So I'm excited for this will be our third conversation, I think.
Our third conversation. What topic are we covering today?
So listen, I have a question for you. I read something in Entrepreneur Magazine that 2021 has turned out to be a candidate market. I can't think of any better person to address that topic than you. So do you see 2021 being a candidate market given all the churn we're seeing in the workplace?
I'm hearing that it's a candidate driven market. However, on the flip side, I'm still running into people who are having problems finding jobs. So there's a mismatch. I think it's a candidate driven market because the companies are hiring again. That's the good news. Okay, companies are hiring. However, I think people are nervous to make a change. So if they are employed now, they don't want to make any sudden movements because sometimes the last one on is the first one off. So they're kind of riding this out and being steady in what, for their employment right now. What are you seeing, Cicely?
Well, actually, I think on the employer side or even the career growth side for individuals, I do think there's a little bit to the candidate market going on. But at the same time, I think there's a value shift going on. That's what I see the most. You know, wages are changing. Employers are trying to figure out what incentives they offer. I think for the individual career professional who's looking for growth right now, it's a great opportunity to take advantage of some of those open positions that they may be able to move into. But nevertheless, still a shifting market regardless.
Yeah, things are not settled in yet, but let's
Not
talk
at all.
about that shift because a lot of people were let go during COVID. We know that. And, they're coming to me for career advice. And one of the things I'm asking them is, what does your next 5 to 10 years look like? What's the master plan here? Do you want to go back to corporate America? Or do you want to take those skills and start your own business? And what I'm seeing, and actually, I'm going to read this statistic, okay, because business startups grew in 2020 from 3.5 million in 2019 to 4.4 million in 2020.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so I think what's happening is a lot of people are saying, okay, what are my next steps? And I have to earn money. The companies weren't hiring for a year and they're putting up shingles and starting their own businesses. I think, however, moving forward, not all those businesses are going to succeed. Not every business does succeed. And some people are I'm starting to hear uh, grumblings that, gee, I want to go back to corporate America. I don't want to do everything myself as a business owner. What are your thoughts on that, Cicely?
Well, actually, I'm kind of curious about what you said about this 5 year, 10-year plan, because I do think people are now revisiting what that plan is. I think part of that is, do I want to go back to corporate America? I think part of that is, I don't want to drive 45 minutes from home anymore. My values have changed. I'm looking for something different. And what that different is sort of where the blank comes in that you fill in. But regardless, for individuals, I also see a lot happening on the reorg side. And that makes me nervous for a lot of my coaching clients because companies are taking the opportunity to reorg with this great sort of resignation crisis, right? This great quit crisis. And so the reorgs are happening. And within reorgs, that has its own sense of churn and burn that goes with it, as well. But I do like what you're saying because I'm seeing the same about people want to return and they're looking at that 5, 10-year plan and they're reassessing. I think that's the biggest thing. There's an across the board reassessment going on. What do I want and how do I want to live my life and find that balance? Balance is something I hear more now than I've heard in the past. And I perhaps the same for you.
You're 100% correct. That was just well said. It is about the balance and what do we really want out of our careers? What do
Mhm.
we want out of our lives? That we're going back to our last conversation about work-life balance and what does this look like moving forward?
That's
So,
right.
I think candidates still are looking for that remote or hybrid situation. The companies are still trying to figure this out. What candidates and job seekers need to realize is that, okay, if the job all of a sudden becomes remote, the candidate pool becomes larger.
Good point.
So now they have to be even more competitive. But again, what does that world look like for them? And what is that career steps? Because people aren't retiring at 60, 62, 65 anymore. They're working into their 70s and 80s, and they need to because they cannot afford not to work. Okay, we're all living longer, which is a wonderful thing. But what does that work life look like?
Right. And I think those questions, quite frankly, are going to continue. You're right. No one has a good handle on what this looks like. And quite frankly, where we are right now with perhaps, spikes and different things sort of taking place again as a result of COVID, I think those questions, those open questions, mind you, will continue for the future. So let's keep this going. Do you agree?
I definitely agree. Okay. So Cicely, we're going to be covering these career conversation topics. I'm curious as to what our listeners and our viewers would be interested in. What topics?
Likewise, I think we should ask, if you have topics, if you have particular interest topics that you want us to cover, hey, let us know. And Eileen, I think you've been asking that in some of your posts. I think you've been asking people what topics they wanted to cover. They wanted us to cover. Am I right about that?
Yes. So if you're interested in sharing information with us and asking us what you'd like us to cover, just put it in the comments down below. And we will talk about that on our next, I can't even talk now.
Our next video.
I'll cut that up.
What are we doing here?
Okay.
That's exactly, listen, we are imparting wisdom. That's what we're doing here. So no, yes, we would love to have everybody's feedback and, feel free to reach out to us directly as well. But thank you all. Always appreciate the opportunity to address you. Eileen, you always amaze me. I'm always in awe of your insights.
Right back
and
at you.
so grateful to do this. And yeah, we'll see what people say and we'll come back and do another one.
Wonderful. Okay, fantastic.
All right. We'll talk soon.